USC head coach Lincoln Riley joining us here. Lincoln, in a lot of ways, it seems like going into year three, it almost is like year one again for you because you've got a new defensive staff. You've obviously have to replace a generational quarterback in Caleb Wiliams, and you got a lot of really new pieces there. And not to get too deep in the weeds here, but it seems like you're bigger on defense. You're bigger in the trenches. I guess just take me through what these last few months have been like there at USC.
Yeah, they've been exciting, Brandon. It's in some ways we kind of described it as it's almost like you're kind of in some ways maybe done with phase one and kind of on to phase two of this rebuild. And I think big picture wise, the first phase for us and which was really important was to get off to a good start, to create some momentum early, to get back to competing for championships. And that was a big step up to get to that point. We obviously went, very heavy in the portal, from a roster standpoint to try to overhaul this thing and get competitive quickly. I think now we're transitioning a little bit more, not just defensively, as you said, but really with the whole roster into more what we want to be long term, which is a little bit less portal, a little bit more long-term development, high school recruiting and having a little bit more stability and consistency within the program. And I think, when you have a staff like we've been able to assemble, you feel like one of the great advantages that we have here is development. And, if you can take these players and have these guys 3, 4, 5 years with the staff we have, these guys are going to develop fast and a really good football team is going to come out of that. And so, yeah, it's been a fun first couple of years. There's a lot of changes, as you said, coming. We're thrilled with the defensive staff, the additions, the some of the changes being made there, and obviously excited about a lot of the new pieces within this roster.
Before we get into your roster and the future here, I do want to ask about Caleb Wiliams with the NFL draft coming up. I mean, consensus number one already going in. People call him a generational talent. How does he transition to the NFL, you believe? What kind of player is he? And when you've coached so many great quarterbacks and Heisman winners, what makes him different going into the NFL, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is so much about fit, at the end of the day. And so, I mean, I think so much of that will be obviously the franchise he lands with, the head coach, the coordinator, the quarterback coach, the system, the surrounding talent. I mean, at that level, it takes it all. And so I think, especially early, I'm sure a lot of his success will be predicated on that and hopefully ends up in a great space and a great situation. You take a guy, you take one of our guys like Baker Mayfield, who, you look at it, did a pretty good job with the Browns. You could argue maybe they should have never moved on from him, but, he ends up in a couple of different situations. With mixed results, all of a sudden gets in a really good situation at Tampa, and then we all see what happened. And so it's so much of that to me in that league. And so I'm obviously hoping Caleb can end up in a great situation. He's a very talented player. He's still, I keep trying to remind everybody every time I get asked a question about him, like he's still so young. Like he's still so young as a quarterback. Like there's not many guys that have come out in a position like him where, he may end up being the number one overall pick that have played as little of football as this guy's played. And from missing his senior year due to COVID, he only played the first half a year for us at Oklahoma. I mean, it's just, in the last 4 years, his 3 years of college, his senior year of high school, he's played really 2.5 years of football. And so I think there's still a lot of growth left. The talent is undeniable. I mean, he has really, from a physical standpoint, has, just really special skills. I mean, there's no question about it. And he's growing a lot because we know that position is so mental. And it's so much about decision-making and leadership and the intangibles. And he is talented in those areas as well, but it's still like an ongoing process for him. And so if he gets in a scenario where he's, continually pushed and being developed, it's hard not to imagine, him becoming a very good player.
So how do you feel about on your roster in the effort to quote unquote replace him? I mean, your track record's second to none right now, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that because you want to develop guys, but how do you feel about the room you have this spring and going into the summer?
Well, I'm excited. I mean, obviously, we had a pretty good little litmus test there with the bowl game, playing against, one of the better defenses in the country last year that didn't lose anybody in terms of opt-outs for that game. And we probably played the best game offensively that we played all year. So I thought, both Miller, Moss, and Jake Jensen did a great job as our starter and our backup going into that game. So there's a lot of excitement around those guys. And then you add in, Jade Maeva, who did a heck of a job at UNLV last year, played the majority of the season for them and was very productive. You throw him into that group, there's experience. There's there's obviously very good competition. There's some depth in that room. So, and spring practice has done nothing but I think further our confidence in what that room can do, for this team and for this offense. So, I'm confident in the way that room will play this year.
I've heard that you've kind of taken it upon yourself to go spend more time with the defense. Everybody knows you're an offensive guy, you're a quarterback guy. How important has Luke Year been for you in handling the quarterbacks now that he's got a couple of years in your system and knowing how to coach and handle the quarterbacks day to day? And how much are you actually spending time with the defense as a result of that?
Yeah, Luke was the perfect guy. I mean, it's a combination of does the situation fit the team, and then do you have the solution and the people to make it work. And Coach Heward obviously played the position. His family lineage has a really, really strong history at the position. He's coached the position. He's been an OC. He's been around a lot of great quarterbacks. And so I think it was more just, him having a couple of years in our system to be completely comfortable with everything and me being comfortable with it at the end of the day. And no question after this year, I knew that he was ready for it. And if it was the right thing for the team, that we would do it. And yeah, it's been great. I mean, I handle my offensive responsibilities, whether it's with the whole group or it's with the skill guys or it's with the QBs. And then after that, I'm almost solely with the defense. And it's been great being in our install meetings, bounce around to the different position meetings, seeing these guys coach. I mean, this defensive staff we brought in are a bunch of elite teachers and elite developers. And you can see why these guys have had so much success in their careers leading into USC. And I mean, I walk in those meetings, I learn a lot from those coaches, the style that they coach, the way they get their points across. It helps put me in a position where I think I can help give them some of the offensive perspectives of what, a quarterback or an offensive lineman or a receiver may be thinking in this scenario. And I think that's been helpful for our defensive players. So no, it's been fun. It's been different, but I think it's been exactly what we needed. And I think so far so good.
You still calling plays on Saturdays?
I haven't given that up yet.
I was gonna
not
say,
not anytime soon.
don't be doing that. Danon Lyn, I remember I wrote a profile on him, I think a couple weeks into his first season there at UCLA, because there's something special about him. The industry was buzzing about him, and the numbers just were incredible. What he's able to do immediately there. What is it about Danon Lyn that's made him such a superstar, and then you had your eyes on him that quickly and got him on your staff?
Yeah, our first conversation, and I had already talked to a lot of different guys that had heavy interest in this job. And after our first conversation, I knew deep down that's who I wanted to hire. And I think the thing that struck me was, I mean, he's got great football knowledge and obviously family history, lineage, the experience in the NFL. I mean, all of that. So do a lot of other people. What struck me was just how good of a teacher the guy is. Like, I've compared it to people like, we remember when we were all back in school and maybe you took that with that one really tough class or that subject that was tough for you, but you had like a great teacher that just found a way to connect with you, right? A way to make something that maybe was a difficult subject actually seem kind of easy and kind of simple. And Danon has that ability. His ability to teach and to get his message across to players in a way that they can understand it and go turn it loose and play the game you want to play, I think is really rare. It's as good as I've seen. And that's what struck me. And when you watch the film at UCLA last year, I mean, the film tells the same story, right? The ability to be multiple with your first year with a defense and do all the things they did. And a lot of times you see people try a lot of different things and that actually makes them worse. They really get good at nothing. And this was like the complete opposite. These guys were playing on a high level, week in and week out. So I've been impressed with him, his demeanor, his the way he teaches, the way he runs the defensive staff meetings. Yeah, couldn't be more impressed up to this point.
So from the outside looking in, like I said, it seems like you guys you're going bigger on defense. Is that fair to say what you're trying to do,
Sure,
personnel
100%.
wise?
100%. Yeah, we were obviously, in the previous years, we were more of a single gap defensive line that was based upon, penetration, getting in the backfield. That was a lot of times prioritized, a smaller, more athletic defensive lineman profile. There's certainly been a big change, and those were conversations that we had right after we hired Coach Lyn, and we actually started working on these guys' bodies even before the bowl game because we knew to play the way we wanted to play that there was going to have to be some changes there. And so we've made changes to our off season, the nutrition program. I mean, everything we've done is to be able to build size, mass, strength. And we've been able to do that. And then certainly we've changed in the recruiting profile, right, of what we're evaluating, what we're bringing into this program to fit that as well.
Uh, when I look at your defense right now, I guess you guys brought in what, 5 cornerbacks just in this past recruiting class, whether through the portal or the high school ranks. You seem to be filling a lot of spots there. But what are you looking at potentially in the portal here in these next couple of weeks with it open right now?
Yeah, the one position I would say that we have a lot of depth. We're very confident with the way it's progressed. Would be linebacker. I would be, unless we unexpectedly lose somebody, we feel like that room's really in a great place. Both the older, experienced guys and the young talent. We're excited about that room. But certainly the other two levels of the defense, are spots that we're going to take a look at. I don't know that we're in a situation where, other than probably an interior defensive lineman, that's probably the biggest need for us. That we got
Seems
some.
like everybody's saying that. Everybody wants a
Yeah,
tackle. Everybody
that's
wants
that's
someone.
yeah, that's right. God didn't make many of those guys, and so yeah, no, I think that's probably the most immediate need for us, and we'll look at a couple of other guys as this thing evolves. But we really like the group we have out there. There's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of competition across the board, and I don't feel like we're in a deal where we've got to go in and make like mass changes after spring, which is the type of position we want to be in.
It seems like the portal nowadays, it's like drum up drama even when it's not there. And then when someone does leave, it's just like, oh my gosh, there must be something going on. And it's happened in every program. And of course, USC, because you're in LA, you guys get that attention. And then here in the last couple of weeks, you've lost Isaiah Rakes and Jason Zandamala. What was kind of going on with the situations there? And then, of course, I saw where you had to even be asked about Bear Alexander, who's still on the roster despite all these other rumors. Is it just crazy have to deal with all that stuff every day seemingly?
I guess in some ways you become a little numb to it. It's kind of part of it. I mean, you can take an internet rumor like what would happen with Bear, and I'm getting asked about, well, tell me about all these conversations and recruiting them back. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we haven't had those conversations. Like he's had a little bit of a hamstring issue in spring and has had to miss a little bit of time. And our conversations have been centered around him getting back and dealing just with the frustration of not being able to go full go yet. So that's a little bit part of it. You understand it. And you're going to have some situations that come up, like a Zandamela has a really unique background, family history, all of that. That was a huge part of this. Like those things happen. And so, I think you understand at the end of the day, everybody's probably going to lose a few guys. There's going to be a little bit of turnover, but I just, caution. I've said the same thing to, the USC fans, USC people, but really people across college football, like keep the focus on the other 100 guys that are staying in your program, that are loyal to your program, that are not even thinking not one bit about going in the transfer portal. Because that's a lot of times we can put all of our energy into the one or two and forget the 100. And I don't know that that's always the best thing.
I know about this time of year, probably after spring practice, you guys are still in the middle of it as we talk right now, that you like to start doing some advanced scouting, some of your other staffers or anything. Have you guys done any of that? Obviously, with the whole new schedule going into the Big Ten and the different challenges that presents.
We have. Yeah. It's going to be, for for a lot of us that have been here the entire, last 2.5 years, I mean, it'll be kind of the second time in 3 years that
Yeah.
it's a completely new schedule, which is, there's challenges with it, but it's also fun. It's fun to play against some of these new people, these new coaches, new sets of players, new venues. So we're embracing it. We certainly have started that. We're probably starting a little bit earlier on that than we normally would, just because of how many new opponents there are. And so, yeah, you certainly got to get ready for it. And hopefully we'll be the new opponent for them, that hopefully we can present a few challenges like they will for us.
Any common thread there that stands out about the Big Ten? Everybody's always got those stereotypes about the Big Ten being bigger,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I think those things are always at times maybe blown out of proportion. But you do certainly see within this league. I mean, there are some differences, like there are. It's not. I think sometimes the common perception is, oh well, everybody's just in there and, like, 2 and 3 tight end personnel every single play, which is, it's not obviously to that extreme, but you do see at times more big sets, some more traditional under center sets, more tight ends. You start to see some fullbacks being used, so you do see some things different, especially from an offensive perspective. Than maybe what you typically would see in some of these other leagues. So yeah, you gotta be ready to beat the people on your schedule. You got to be ready to win the games that you're getting ready to play, and be able to find advantages over the competition that is coming. And so it's a really good league that's only been made stronger by these recent additions. And this is going to create some big boy, heavyweight matchups that are going to be a lot of fun.
my last question for you, going into the Big Ten, and obviously coming from the Pac-12, it used to be you got to win the Pac-12 championship, and even then, not always get a spot in the playoff. But now the playoffs expanding, number one, and number two, you're going to the Big Ten, where the runner-up or even the third team is probably going to get in the playoff now. How do you feel about that going into this, where knowing, I mean, you want to win a Big Ten championship, but knowing that you don't necessarily have to win the title to be able to have a chance to win the national title.
Yeah, that piece definitely feels different, right? It's going to feel a little bit more like, other sports. Or I mean, like, you look at, like, the NCAA, basketball tournament, where you obviously can get in the tournament and you got a shot. The NFL playoffs, you can not win your division, you get in it, you got a shot. Like, it's going to feel more like the rest of the world, where there's a little bit more a little bit more leeway, right? Flexibility, that one game may not necessarily cost you your chance, which I think is good. I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. It's complicated with bowl history, and players with finals, and schedules and all of that. Our games, it comes at a complicated time, so that's probably why it's taken some time to get to this point. But to have the conference champions in, to have some of these leagues like ours, where you could be, I mean, you could be a top 10 team in the country and finish, fourth in our league. Like that could easily happen. And so you don't want to get penalized for playing great competition. And I think anytime that's happening, that's something you got to take a look at. So yeah, I think it'll be a great thing for the sport. We're all going to have to adapt to it, but it's been a long time coming.
Lincoln Riley, good luck the rest of the spring, and we'll see you at Big Ten Media Days. It's still weird to say.
It is. We'll get used to it soon, though.